The fundamental wisdom of the middle way. Nagarjuna's Karika. Translation and commentary by J. L. Garfield, Part 1, the text of Karika. Chapter 27, Examination of Views 1. The views in the past I was, or I was not, and the view that the world is permanent, etc. All of these views depend on a prior limit. 2. The view, in the future I will become other, or, I will not do so, and that the world is limited, etc. All of these views depend on a final limit. 3. To say, I was in the past, is not tenable. What existed in the past is not identical to this one.
4. According to you, this self is that, but the appropriator is different. If it is not the appropriator, what is your self? 5. Having shown that there is no self other than the appropriator should be the self. But it is not yourself. 6. Appropriating is not the self. It arises and ceases. How can one accept that future appropriating is the appropriator? 7. A self that is different from the appropriating is not tenable. If it were different, then in a non-appropriator there should be appropriation. But there isn't.
8. So it is neither different from the appropriating nor identical to the appropriating. There is no self without appropriation. But it is not true that it does not exist. 9. To say in the past I wasn't would not be tenable. This person is not different from whoever existed in previous times. 10. If this one were different, then if that one did not exist, I would still exist. If this were so, without death, one would be born. 11. Annihilation and the exhaustion of action would follow, different agents' actions would be experienced by each other. That and other such things would follow. 12. Nothing comes to exist from something that did not exist. From this errors would arise. The self would be produced or, existing, would be without a cause.
13. So, the views I existed, I didn't exist, both or neither, in the past are untenable. 14. To say in the future, I will exist or will not exist, such a view is like those involving the past. 15. If a human were a god, on such a view there would be permanence. The god would be unborn. For any permanent thing is unborn. 16. If a human were different from a god, on such a view there would be impermanence. If the human were different from the god, a continuum would not be tenable.
17. If one part were divine and one part were human, it would be both permanent and impermanent. That would be irrational. 18. If it could be established that it is both permanent and impermanent, then it could be established that it is neither permanent nor impermanent. 19. If anyone had come from any place and were then to go someplace, it would follow that cyclic existence was beginningless. This is not the case. 20. If nothing is permanent, what will be impermanent, permanent and impermanent, or neither? 21. If the world were limited, how could there be another world? If the world were unlimited, how could there be another world?
22. Since the continuum of the aggregates is like the flame of a butter lamp, it follows that neither its finitude nor its infinitude makes sense. 23. If the previous were disintegrating and these aggregates, which depend upon those aggregates, did not arise, then the world would be finite. 24. If the previous were not disintegrating and these aggregates, which depend upon those aggregates, did not arise, then the world would be infinite. 25. If one part were finite and one part were infinite, then the world would be finite and infinite. This would make no sense. 26. How could one think that one part of the appropriator is destroyed and one part is not destroyed? This position makes no sense.
27. How could one think that one part of the appropriation is destroyed and one part is not destroyed? This position makes no sense. 28. If it could be established that it is both finite and infinite, then it could be established that it is neither finite nor infinite. 29. So, because all entities are empty, which views of permanence, etc., would occur, and to whom, when, why, and about what would they occur at all? 30. I prostrate to Gautama who through compassion taught the true doctrine, which leads to the relinquishing of all views.